Ace Baldwin says this Penn State basketball team can win a Big Ten conference. But should we believe him?
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Penn State fans? Thanks so much for making Locked On Nittany Lions your first listen and watch every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. My name is Zach Seyko. I am your host of the show. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Ace Baldwin Jr. firmly believes that this Penn State team can win a Big Ten Conference championship and make the NCAA Tournament. Other takeaways from the first open practice of the summer. Zane Brancefield joins the show, associate producer to Locked On Nittany Lions, to discuss all that and more in the upcoming segments. Ace Baldwin returned on a mission. He comes back and he immediately says that this is a Big Ten Tournament championship team. This is an NCAA Tournament team, and that they have some of the best chemistry that they've ever had as this core is back together. Now, while I don't think that Penn State wins a Big Ten championship, whether that's the regular season title or the conference championship itself that would create an automatic bid into the NCAA tournament, I believe Ace when he says that this is an NCAA tournament team, because this team is veteran-laden. They have different specialties. They're unique in categories that they weren't a season ago. And Ace Baldwin said it himself that the chemistry is so much better, and where they improved from a year ago is that there's no more selfishness. There's a lack of selfishness, that this team is always looking out for one another. And it's easy to see that when you bring back the entire core from a year ago that was competitive even though they couldn't get to the next step. So you have Ace Baldwin, who's the returning Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. You have Nick Kern Jr. back. You have Zach Hicks. You have DeMarco Dunn. And then you round out the lineup with Puff Johnson. That can be your starting five, depending on what given night. But if they're going to play a little bit of small ball, right, you have to see if Puff Johnson or Zach Hicks is going to play the five. But now you bring in guys like Conan Niederhauser, who is 7 foot. Yeah, Penn State finally has a player that can just go get rebounds and be a defensive presence in the middle. And then somebody who just has all the potential in the world, Freddie Dilione, who played at Tennessee for the past couple of seasons, adding guys like Kachienze and Eli Rice, who played ball over at Nebraska. I mean, this is a team that just made upgrades at every spot on the roster, just overall. And then you add in a freshman class that is poised and ready to learn. We'll talk about Miles Goodman and an update on him. But this is just the overall takeaway here, that Penn State's team is better. I mean that. They are better. They are improved, and I think they make the NCAA tournament. In an expanded Big Ten conference, it's tough for me to say, that's good that Ace Baldwin has that type of confidence. But at the end of the day, when you add the likes of Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington, I mean, these are some of the better basketball schools that are coming over from the Pac-12 to join the Big Ten. So that's where it's going to be a little tough. The competition gets better despite Penn State getting better. So both of those go hand in hand. I believe that Penn State does make the NCAA tournament with this group. Penn State has created depth. Penn State has gotten specialty skills that didn't have a season ago. Niederhauser can clean up the glass. Eli Rice improves the shooting. Freddie Dilione improves the shooting as well. So that's where I agree with Ace Baldwin that, yeah, you can contend for a conference title. It's just going to be really tough with all of the other programs that are in the Big Ten. Penn State, you got better, but so did the Big Ten. The other takeaway from all of this is going back to Freddie Dilione and Niederhauser, because they provide a ton of value. Not only their individual skill sets and what they're going to be able to do. So Penn State isn't going to be matchup dependent. They're going to be matchup-less. And again, if all these guys stay healthy, right? All these guys stay healthy, and then it pays off. But the most important thing to all of this is that Kanye Clary, when he was dismissed from the team or had left the team willingly, right? Kanye Clary, Penn State mutually split at the end of the day in the middle of the season. What changed? Ace Baldwin had to play point 40 minutes every single night. He doesn't have to do that anymore with a guy like Freddie Dilione. Dilione is coming over from Tennessee and has the experience necessary to fit right in at Penn State. Okay, so things didn't work out at Tennessee, that's fine, but he has the skill set to allow Ace Baldwin to at least take some time off. And I know Ace Baldwin doesn't want to do that, but you have to preserve his legs over the course of a season. He can't be playing 40 minutes every single day, every single weekend game, every single night. He can't do it. It's just not feasible. I know that in reality he can because he did it last season, but it's not. If you want Ace Baldwin to play at 110% every single game, then you're going to have to be able to spell him at points in time throughout the season, allow Dilione to run the point, and that's where Penn State benefits. And then you have the freshman guards that can learn progressively on their way. A Jabin Carter, Dominic Stewart, right? These guys can learn and maybe down the road can give you 5-10 quality minutes. But Dilione at least gives Ace Baldwin just some time to go to the bench for maybe 5 to 10 minutes himself, catch his breath, and just preserve him at 110% for the entirety of the season. Then with Niederhauser, you don't get into situations, and I know Zach Edey's moved on and they have another 7-foot prospect of their own. So maybe there's a second coming of Zach Edey here for Purdue. But Penn State's never going to be overmatched. They're never going to be overmatched inside the paint anymore as long as Niederhauser's there. I don't expect Niederhauser to play 30, 35 minutes on a given night, but if he can give you 20 to 25 quality minutes as well, clean up glass, give you about maybe 6 to 8 points, give you 10, 11, 12 rebounds, that is exactly what you're looking for in this case. And then it also doesn't force Zach Hicks and Puff Johnson to play out of position constantly. So yes, you can do that when you need to go small and push the pace a little bit because Puff Johnson as a 5, Zach Hicks as a 5, creates for a faster, speedier lineup. And Penn State did that. When Kanye Clary was there, they tried to maximize the speed of the team. But now you have that balance. You can do one or the other. You're not essentially glued to one. You can play you can play with any style that you want. You can match up with anybody that you want on a given night, and that's what Mike Rhoades was looking for, along with longevity too. Again, I like the way this roster is laid out. I like that they have a strong group of seniors. Yeah, the junior class isn't, it's just Niederhauser, it isn't quite there. But then you have the sophomore group, and then you have a talented freshman class coming in. So when this group of 5 seniors moves on, when these veterans that could be all of your starting 5, or at least your starting 4 and a 6th man, because that's what it's going to be, these seniors are going to play a lot and eat up, 80% of the available minutes for Penn State this season? That is what there is to take away, is that this is a strong veteran team, a group that has built its chemistry up, a team that has all the confidence in the world that they can win a conference championship in an expanded conference, and they, on paper, got better, and they already looked the part in a first open summer practice. Now, all of that is good news, but a little bit of bad news. Something we did notice is that Miles Goodman was there, the best prospect out of the bunch, out of the 4 freshmen that are there for Penn State, was not participating. His arm was in a sling. We don't know the longevity of it. We just know that he is sidelined for the moment, or at least not participating in summer practices. Don't know how serious it is, how long he's going to be out of the lineup, or how long it's going to impact his availability. But Coach Rhoades didn't allude to anything that, regardless, that would indicate something bad. So we'll gather updates. Again, there's more open practices here, so I don't think that's a cause for concern at the moment. Get healed up, get rested, because basketball's still further away, right? October, November, still down the road here. We're in July, but giving that a month, 2 months maybe, I think there's an optimistic outlook for Miles Goodman, who is the most talented freshman, and I think definitely can factor into some minutes for Penn State if he is 100% right behind Conan Niederhauser at that center spot. Again, you want to try to avoid playing Zach Hicks and Puff Johnson there a lot, just because then you can get overmatched with size and height. I don't think Ace Baldwin's crazy. I like the confidence. I like the belief in this team, and they are better, both on paper and on the court. Now, what else is there to like about this Penn State men's basketball team for the 24-25 season? We'll tell you on the other side of this break. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. You got to download the Gametime app because buying tickets to your favorite events should not be stressful. I love going to Major League Baseball games in the summer, and Gametime is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which helps you get tickets faster and easier to those games. And get this, prices on the Gametime app actually go down as it gets closer to first pitch. You get last minute deals on Gametime. You can save up to 60% when you buy tickets through the Gametime app, and that includes anything, not just baseball, sports, music, comedy, concerts, and theater. You also get flash deals and zone deals, exclusive deals within the app. You have all-in pricing, so there's no guessing what your total amount's going to be. And probably my favorite feature, seat views. You get a panoramic view of the seat before you get to the venue. So if this is the first time going to an event, you don't have to second guess yourself about where you're going to be sitting. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create that account and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And now let's welcome in Zane Brancefield, associate producer to Locked On Nittany Lions. He and I were both at Penn State men's basketball's open practice the other day. And Zane, there's a lot to like about this team. First impressions are strong, especially with Ace Baldwin saying that they think they can win the Big Ten tournament, that they can make the NCAA tournament. Do you buy those words from the veteran guard?
I think so. I thought Penn State did well last year, and that's a big learning curve for a first-year head coach at a new program. And Penn State only got better over the offseason. They brought back all their key starters, and they added a lot of depth at places they needed it in shooting and length. And I think that could be what takes Penn State to the next edge.
Yeah, I certainly agree with you that they got better. They improved. I've already pointed that out. The players that exited, aside from Kudus Wahab, but to see Jameel Brown go on, Demetrius Lilly, and then they bring in players like Niederhauser and Eli Rice and Freddie Dilione. I mean, these are all upgrades. It's just a matter of how much better they're going to be because this is an expanded Big Ten conference. You get guys that have been around this kind of basketball. And you get guys that that can be difference makers. They have specialties, right? Niederhauser isn't this phenomenal big man. He's good. He plays Power 6 Division I basketball, so he is good. But Penn State finally has just somebody that can be a big man for them down low. Gone are the days of John Hara playing the 5 or Miles Dredd even playing the 5. And they were respectable for what, I mean, John Hara was really good. Miles Dredd, very serviceable to play the 5 as somebody who was a 6'4" guard. But my point is that Penn State has never had the luxury of having a Zach Edey type player, someone that just eats up space, has some skill to him, and can go get any rebound that he wants to at 7'+". So these are things that Penn State was lacking before, and now that they have different specialties where they would get left behind, but much better, deeper teams.
Yeah, I think the other big thing is, too, a lot of the guys they brought in are pretty young, especially like Miles Goodman, who will probably play right off the bat. And just yesterday, Mike Rhoades was saying he came in with like 2 inches of height on him already. And that's a big deal for Penn State, having a guy that's about almost 7 foot tall, who Penn State hasn't really had that in a long time. And so having a guy that's athletic and tall and will be here for hopefully the next like 4 or 5 years, depending on what happens, I think that's huge for the Nittany Lions and can definitely boost them and help him develop and can be an instant impact for Penn State around these veteran guys like Ace Baldwin and Nick Kern Jr. and Puff Johnson, who were always valuable members on defense. And now we just bring in these rebounding guys who are taller, more athletic, which Penn State needs that, as well as shooting, which I think shooting can be better. But the other day they were shooting pretty well. So I think that's something Penn State fans can look forward to.
I like the vision that Mike Rhoades has for this program, that there isn't exactly a class that is lacking. There's a representative almost in every single class in terms of eligibility. So you have a strong freshman group. You bring in 4 talented freshman players that probably aren't good, aside from Miles Goodman, who we did see in a sling yesterday, had the arm, maybe it was a shoulder, had his arm in a sling. And that's obviously not good news. We'll see how that plays out, but it didn't seem like the coaches alluded to anything significantly long-term. Obviously, we will update people as we found out other information, but Miles Goodman was there. He was just sidelined. But the freshman class, 4 players coming in addition to the walk-ons that are there. You have a sophomore group as well. You have transfers that came in and bolster the junior group, just not as many. And then you have this really senior-laden group between Ace Baldwin, of course, Zach Hicks, DeMarco Dunn. The list goes on and on and on. The senior group really has to make a final stand here, but then they passed the torch behind to the rest of a roster. So yeah, you're going to lose 5 or 6 veteran players that are going to contribute significantly to this team this season. But behind them, you still have an extremely talented group and a deep group so that when these guys move on, Penn State basketball will be just fine and can continue to reload as opposed to rebuild.
I think that's a big point too, like you said. Like, you're losing these guys, but I feel like that's a next year problem, and we're on this year right now. And these guys are here, and Mike Rhoades wants to take full advantage of their veteran experience and their talents and their skills and everything they provide, especially their leadership. He's praised Ace Baldwin a lot, who we all know has been a great leader on and off the court for the Nittany Lions, and I'm excited to see what he does in taking some of these younger guys under his wing and to help them grow as leaders and players in every aspect and helping Penn State be what they want this program to be, which is high character guys, which is what Mike Rhoades was preaching yesterday. He wants high character guys who can be a part of this program and take Penn State to that level. We talked the other day that Penn State might not ever be at that Purdue level in the Big Ten, but they can compete, and they can be an above average team year in and year out if they just keep grinding and they continue to develop and take advantage of guys every once in a while when they get guys like Seth Lundy and Jalen Pickett in the past, and even this year with like Ace Baldwin. I think if Penn State can maximize what they have every season, I think they can prove everybody wrong and can reach that bar every year, no matter if it's way up here or if it's really low. I think they can reach that bar every season, especially with Mike Rhoades.
Freddie Dilione, in my opinion, has a lot of potential, and these summer practices are important as they'll have more open practices to see which players stand out and how the team continues to develop together. We're going to discuss some of those must-watch players coming up after the break. Zane, I'll tell you what, I think that Freddie Dilione has not only some of the most potential out of the newcomers for Penn State, but also offers the most value for Penn State as well. And it showed immediately Dilione's potential at that first open summer practice. Why I like Dilione a lot is because of his versatility. He can drive to the basket. He was a former top 50 player once upon a time. Committed to Tennessee. Didn't exactly work out, but he played at a winning program. So he brings that experience, but the skill set has always been there. He's going to be behind Ace Baldwin, and that's the most important part of all of this and why he adds so much value. Zane, if you can remember this, Ace Baldwin was playing 40 minutes a night after Kanye Clary whatever happened, right? Kanye Clary off the team, mutual parting, Clary quits regardless, and Baldwin had to handle point guard duties 24/7, 365, 40 minutes a night, and then if he had an overtime game, and Ace Baldwin was able to handle it, but you don't want that to be the case. Dilione comes in with that potential, but then that added value to where you don't have to exhaust your best player on the team night in and night out. So Dilione is the guy that I circle on this roster and I say, you got to find a way to work him into the lineup, become that 7th guy off of the bench, because again, Penn State has a lot of veterans. Penn State has a good first starting 5, and then a DeMarco Dunn, for example, that could be that 6th man. But Dilione needs to be able to back up Ace Baldwin and give you 15 to 20 quality minutes a night.
Yeah, another guy I like to throw out is DeMarco Dunn. I thought he had a great season last year, and I think he can take that step coming into this year. He's going to get to play kind of a different role now with new guys, like you said, with Freddie coming in, which will be big because DeMarco ended up being one of the best shooters on Penn State's team. And I
Mm-hmm.
think if he can continue to do that and play off ball and just be a defensive threat in both ways, I think he'll be a crucial part for Penn State and can definitely like help lead them over. And he's an older guy. He can also teach some of the other guys like Freddie and Javin Carter how to play some good on-ball defense from the guard position.
No, I like what DeMarco Dunn offers, and similar characteristics or similar experience that Dilione has, where Dunn is coming over from a proven blue blood basketball program that is winning in the present. Former North Carolina Tar Heel, former Tennessee Volunteer, ACC, SEC, do pretty well in college basketball. That's no secret. So these guys bring that experience, have worked with really good coaching, and then Mike Rhoades can continue to extend that. But I like that. But that's what I mean. There's no gap in understanding that these guys already bring with them that experience. They know what it takes to be good, to be one of the best. And then they can be an extension of the current coaching staff that they're with at Penn State with Mike Rhoades and company to push that further. So when you bring up a DeMarco Dunn, yeah, it makes sense. And it depends what Penn State ultimately decides as its starting five. I think that's going to be a fluid situation. You could have a night where they go small and a Zach Hicks and a Puff Johnson ends up being ends up playing the 4 and the 5 on a given night. Or you start Niederhauser. You start Niederhauser at the 5, and then a Puff Johnson or a DeMarco Dunn comes off of the bench, right? So that's what I mean. This rotation is going to get interesting. How does an Eli Rice factor into this? You mentioned DeMarco Dunn as an impact veteran to watch. I'll do one better, I think, and that's Nick Kern Jr. Kern is so good defensively. He's stingy. Him and Ace Baldwin, the dynamic duo of defensive guards that just do not let up. They do not give you any space. But Kern, we saw over the course of the season become so much better as an offensive player. So the defense, I grade him I almost want to give him a 95 or better on a scale of 100. Nick Kern is that good right there with Ace Baldwin. Ace Baldwin was the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. I think Kern is right behind him there. And now that he's added that offensive skill set and continues to develop it, he can truly become a second or third option for them in being just the all-around complete player.
I absolutely agree with you with Nick Kern Jr. I loved the way he developed last season, like you said, getting better on offense, and his defense is unmatched. I think, especially with him and Ace Baldwin, if you put both of them in the backcourt, I don't know if they'll probably get like 5 steals a night, the two of them combined, which...
There were nights where Ace Baldwin had 6, 7 steals.
Absolutely. So I definitely think Nick Kern can be one of the most valuable players on this Penn State team. And he doesn't need to drop 10 points a night to do it. If he can get a couple steals and drop even 8 points a night, I think that'll be crucial for the Nittany Lions. Because, as we've already mentioned, this team has a lot of depth. And so I think there's going to be a lot of contributing players as far as points go. And so I'm not really worried in the scoring aspect from Nick. And I think he can do a whole lot of other things, especially playing off ball, which also Ace Baldwin does a great job playing off ball too. So if someone else can have the ball in their hands, I think they'll be just fine.
Well, and it just adds to it too. If you bring in a Freddie Dilione, and we'll see how he is defensively, we got a glimpse of what he can do offensively and running the point. However, defensively, I still want to see more from him because I don't know what he's capable of there. But if you put Ace Baldwin on the bench just to give him a break, just to let him rest, you can then move Nick Kern to guard whatever opponent's best player and not have a drop off. Seriously, I know Ace Baldwin won Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, but Nick Kern is not far behind in terms of that defensive skill set. Zane, I like this team a lot. I think they can make an NCAA tournament. Now, the Big Ten does expand, so the competition's going to get a little bit tougher. But if they're going to take 10 teams into the NCAA tournament, I definitely can look around and say confidently that Penn State is a top 10 team in this new look Big Ten Conference. That's going to do it for this edition of Locked On Nittany Lions. A big thanks to Zane Brancefield over there, associate producer to the show, helping out again with football and basketball coverage as we get so close to kickoff. But it's good to see men's basketball gelling well early and often in these open summer practices. Zane, thanks so much for the time. His socials and platforms will be linked down in the description. Zane, can't wait to talk to you again soon about football, basketball, and so much more. And as always, thanks so much for checking out this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions. Be a part of the discussion down in the comments section. What do you think about this Penn State men's basketball team? Do they win a Big Ten title? Do they make the NCAA tournament? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments section. And if you enjoyed this conversation, please leave a like on the episode, share it with friends and family. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you're not already, become an everydayer, subscribe to Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts for the latest conversations around your favorite Penn State sports teams. And don't forget, Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on Amazon Fire TV in the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus the national shows covering each and every league. You can find Locked On Sports Today now available on YouTube and the free Fire TV channels app.